Welcome, it's Friday, it's Fizzy Friday here at New Vine TV. I'm absolutely delighted it's 8:30 because I wanted to keep the bottle closed to open it for you, which meant that I had no pre-glass of wine. You're very welcome. I hope everyone had a good week. And if it's your first time to tune in, make sure you hit the like button and follow me. So tonight we're doing sparkling wine. I am having a lovely bottle of Prosecco. We're going to discuss, because there's a few types of Prosecco actually. So we're going to discuss a few types of Prosecco. We're going to discuss what is cava. And this hasn't been opened. It's only display, unfortunately. I'd love to open it. Can't really justify a bottle of Bollinger. And we have the maps, as always. I had to add in champagne because I decided to bring down the Bollinger. Oh, upstairs, they bring it back in.
Can't see it there either, I'm afraid.
Oh, da-dong. How's that, cameraman?
Fantastico.
So, first things first. Sometimes a sparkling wine is sealed with a crown cap. Sometimes a sparkling wine is sealed with a string. And sometimes a sparkling wine is sealed with what's called a mushroom closure. Why, you might ask? The reason is pressure. This is a full pressure bottle of wine, cava, champagne, and sometimes some types of Prosecco called spumante are sealed with a full pressure. And then you've got these two little fellas here. One is sealed, it's called Spago, when it's sealed with a string. And this guy, which I have taken far too long to get open, is sealed with a crown cap. And the reason...
It's like a bottle of beer, is it?
The reason is actually that it's done with less pressure. And why would you do a Prosecco with less pressure? There are actually two acceptable pressure styles in Prosecco. One of them is the full... sorry, let me open this. First and foremost, I'm thirsty. Cameraman is thirsty. Bop! Whoopsie. Should have done it sideways. There you go. So that's what that was.
It's like a beer cap, Michelle.
It's like a beer cap. Everyone would know them. You can also get Prosecco that's sealed with a screw cap. They're not bad. Like, there's nothing... I wouldn't look at a closure and think, oh, that's good or bad. Look at that.
Fizzy Friday.
Fizzy Friday. So what it is that there are two styles of Prosecco that are acceptable. Let me just give this to the boss before I'm in trouble.
A lovely gesture, my dear. Thank you.
So, there are just a couple of styles. In Ireland, there's double tax on the full pressure. So the likes of champagne, cava, and some types of Prosecco. That's why they look more expensive. That's why when you're going to the shop, you're hitting €20 for a bottle of cava, you're hitting €45 for a bottle of champagne. Why can Prosecco be a tenner or less, or and these guys are 15 and 16. So the Irish government taxes at a certain pressure level. It's taxed as a regular wine, not sparkling wine. So so a lot of producers will make their wine within that threshold, and so that's why you can find Prosecco that's actually in the more affordable category. It's called frizzante. It's semi-sparkling wine. It doesn't mean it's less good. It does mean there are less bubbles in it, but it's equally delicious. So
it's like a bubble tax, is it?
It's like a bubble tax, unfortunately.
The bigger the bubbles, the more that you pay.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a comment by someone in the industry at the time, and they said that it was a tax on our celebrations when it was announced. And I think, to my knowledge, we're the only country in Europe who have that tax on the full sparkling guys. So what is Prosecco? Prosecco is made in northern Italy, up here. So you're looking at Rome is hold on, I find this end of the spoon is better. Rome is halfway down, you've got Milan up in the top part, I suppose the top part of the leg, and then in and around the Venice area, you've got Prosecco. Prosecco is an area, and it's also the name of the grape. And what I suppose the legislation in Prosecco did was, what are you looking at?
The lovely colour of the vino.
The lovely colour of the vino. It's a bit cloudy. And so what they did was because people were calling their wine Prosecco when it wasn't actually from Prosecco. And so they were kind of bastardising the name a little bit. And so what the guys did, the legislation there, was that they made Prosecco the area, a UNESCO or a protected area. And they renamed the grape Glera, and in doing that the only way a wine can be called Prosecco is if it originates in this beautiful area of northern Italy. So we have two styles here. And I know I've got some of you are drinking this guy, which is delicious. Some of you are drinking this guy. A standard frizzante, they tend to have a little bit of extra sugar in them. The styles that I like tend to be very dry, so if anyone at home is drinking this, it's quite a dry style of Prosecco. This style is called Fondo, and if anyone's drinking this, it's a really, really unique style because it's made in a very old-fashioned way. So how do you get the bubbles in the bottle? For Prosecco, they make a still wine, like a wine that you drink, except it's really, really sour. And then they put it in a big tank, and under pressurized conditions, there's a fermentation again, and there's nowhere for the bubbles to go, so they go back into the juice, and that creates the fizz, and it's called the tank method. This wine, they call Fondo, and if this is really complicated, please ask questions and tell me to stop and move on to something else. But with the Fondo, they make the regular wine, so it's quite sour, and then they put it into the bottles, and then they let the second fermentation go on in the bottle, and so you get all these carbon dioxide bubbles, and then there's nowhere to go, so they go back into the bottle of wine, and that creates the bubble in the bottle, and that's how it's made. And I'll just bring these guys back in here. So you've got your champagne and your cava. These are made in the same way where the fermentation is made, the second fermentation is made in the bottle. It's a bit complicated, champagne or sparkling wine. So cava, they make a regular still wine that you drink, except it's quite sour. They tend to have quite high acidity. And then they have a second fermentation. There's nowhere for the bubbles to go, so they go back into the juice. And so that's called the champagne method, and the tank method is for Prosecco. So what are the main differences between Prosecco and cava? Have you had a taste of this, Cameron?
It's absolutely gorgeous.
This is a lovely one.
I love it, yeah.
We love it. It's a bit cloudy, it's real natural. It's kind of, if you're in any of these trendy wine bars in the city centre and they have all these natural wines, this is one of the wines you'd have in there because it's cloudy, because it's unusual. Called Fondo.
How does the cloudiness actually come about, Michelle?
So it's a bit wine nerdy. So you have the second fermentation, the bubbles go back into the bottle, and then there's all these yeast, like the dead yeast cells. So what dead yeast cells are? It's when the sugar is converted into alcohol. There's basically a byproduct, and it's dead yeast cells. And in champagne and cava, they take them out, whereas in Fondo they leave them in, and so it just creates a type of cloudiness. The wine is
quite natural then, isn't it?
It's natural. Oh yeah, like it's pure. It's everything from the ground in a bottle. It's beautiful. And what happens with this one at the top? It's probably quite clear. By the time you get to the bottom of it, it might be a little bit cloudy. And they tend to be quite textural wines. This is quite sour. It's a traditional Prosecco. Like the flavour spectrums you're looking at are, to make it very simple, from Granny Smith apple, so very tart, all the way through to a golden delicious, ripe and sweet. And so that's what you're looking at. And oftentimes if you want to describe what you like, it's spectrums of apples. Because Prosecco tends to be made to be drunk young, and it doesn't have any oak treatment or aging or anything like that. And so that's just another big difference between Prosecco and the likes of cava. I still haven't had anything to drink. Hold on.
Thirsty work.
Another big difference is that Prosecco's only one grape.
Nearly lost you.
Nearly lost one of the precious bottles. Prosecco's only one grape, and it's a white grape. Cava and champagne can be many grapes, and they can be white and red grapes made together, and so they have a really broad spectrum of styles. Cava traditionally, so it's here. So we're in Spain. This is possibly the worst map I've ever drawn. I'm not a particularly bad map drawer, but this is awful. So it's just further south there.
Portugal is lovely and rectangular.
That's not how Portugal looks. So you're going a little bit further south below Barcelona to get to the Cava region, and there's a region beside it also called Penedès, where that's where the wines come from. And they normally would use their local grapes, which are white, and there's 3. I'll name them for you. I'm probably pronouncing them terribly. Parellada, Chirello, and Macabeo. You can also get Pinot Noir in there, depending on how fancy it is, and some Chardonnay and some other things. When you go up to Champagne, that's a much better example of a map. Champagne is kind of on the same line as Paris, so it's quite far north. It's one of the most northerly wine producing regions in France, and there's 3 grapes there. So Champagne is actually Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and another grape called Pinot Meunier. Now, you can get all 3 in a bottle. Sometimes you can only get 1. Sometimes you get only white grapes.
Is it always a blend, Champagne?
No. Champagne, traditionally, you'll get mainly a good chunk of Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay. If anyone has ever noticed on a label, it tends to be on the fancier ones. Billy Cart do it, Ruinart do it if anyone drinks champagne. And you might notice the phrase Blanc de Blanc. And if anyone speaks French, that's white of white. And that means that there's only white grapes in it. It's only Chardonnay. And what that means is that it just tends to be quite elegant and have a lot of finesse and be quite light in style. If you've ever seen the phrase Blanc de Noir, it's a little bit more unusual to see it on the label. And that means it's red grapes only. And so you'll have a bit of Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier in it. And you get a richer, more full-bodied style of champagne. It's a really complicated category, champagne. And if you ever do any of the wine exams, I did them so long ago, I'd probably fail if I did them now. But champagne or sparkling wine is a whole category in itself. It's quite complicated. So the big differences between Prosecco and Cava and Champagne are 1 grape only, many grapes. Another difference is more or less in a tank method, so no oak treatment, no contact with lees, less complex, easier to drink, more affordable, done in the bottle, aged, and there's a classification for aging. And there's another difference. Oh yes, Prosecco can be fully sparkling or semi-sparkling, whereas Cava and Champagne are always fully sparkling.
Good. Very good.
So that's I suppose an overview of the region of sparkling wine. Certainly the ones that you get in the market that you're actually going to drink. Let me see if I have any other points to make here. I don't have any other points to make. Oh, there was one thing I was going to say, which I meant to say at the start, which was next week, Wednesday is Chianti. And the following week, or the Friday is Chardonnay, and then I have nothing else scheduled in. So I'd love some requests or some recommendations. What do you actually want to know? What's your big question? What's the style of wine that you drink and you want to know more about? So please send in a couple of requests, and I'll put up a poll in Instagram stories. I did a poll on Prosecco versus Cava, and I found it mad that the whole time it was up, it was like 49-51. And then it's swapping 51-49. And so it's a real, people like equally nearly Prosecco and Cava for the styles that they are. But I think that's everything. Is that everything, cameraman? Any questions?
Well, what Larks 14 says, isn't rosé, champagne, red and white wine blended together?
I think that's a trick question. It's
Tough
called
one.
Sangay, it's bled. Yeah, he's correct.
Very good.
Yeah. He's asking tough questions, that guy.
Well, Cava itself it's a bit more, it's a lot more southerly than I suppose Champagne.
Champagne. Yeah, so I mean, this obviously isn't the order of countries, but Cava would be the most southerly in Europe for sparkling wines. But it is coastal, so it's got sea breezes which give it a bit of elegance. Champagne is made from Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, so they're very temperamental grapes. They need a lot of finesse to be made well.